Welcome, Lester. Welcome, my friend. How are you doing?
Well, doing pretty well. Negative times, thinking positively.
Fantastic. That's the way to be. It's our planet. It's okay. This body is meant to take all sort of hardships as well. If it can take all the fun, it'll take all the hardships as well. So nothing to worry about. Yeah, this is not the first time it's happening to us. Maybe for a longer time, but it's happened to us many other times. So it's okay. Fantastic. Okay, so I have lots of people here for your presentation today. Lester, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Deepak. Welcome, Guran. Welcome, Anil. Great to see you all. Welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, Lester is here from Sri Lanka, and he's going to talk about all his expertise, all his things. I've just been talking to, hey, Mike, how are you doing? How are you doing, Mike? How are you, Harpreet, Sham? I've been talking to Lester. Lester, many years ago when he met me, he gave me a set of paintings, which are still there on some of the walls in my lodges. And according to me, he is one of the best painters, artists, wildlife artists on this planet. While I was talking to him a little while earlier, I figured out that he's been donating his paintings at various events, to raise money for conservation. And so the art is doing its job. It's so beautiful. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all can see me properly, hear me properly. You can hear Lester as well. Lester, would you like to say hello to everyone?
Hello, everyone. We are having hard times over, but nevertheless, we are doing what we can, and Mohit has been doing a great job. To be honest, he's been doing his conservation thing ever since I known him. I remember long years ago when he did a major effort by talking to the people around Thangkot and asking them not to burn the grasses in order to save the cheer pheasants, and that's been going on. And likewise, he's been constantly talking about conservation over and over again, and he's amazing. He's possibly the only person in the planet right now who is thinking positively and doing positive things. And I'm so happy to know him. I've known him since 2004. And he helped me a lot with my tours in India. I would consider India as my second home. And India is not one country, many countries. And I'm happy to be involved with Asian Adventures. And I've led Mohit's tours in India as well as in Sri Lanka. And it's a pleasure working with him. Fantastic. Thank you, Mohit, for that introduction.
Yeah, thanks. I will quickly introduce you, Lester.
Yeah.
So, Lester, not a new entity to birding and wildlife tourism in Sri Lanka. For over 4 decades of enthusiasm and dedication, his reputation goes beyond the shores of Sri Lanka. His professional tour-leading career as a birder for over 2 decades in South Asia has taken him to many wildlife and birding destinations. He has led tours for many top wildlife tour companies and traversed the length and breadth of India for over 2 decades, as well as his homeland, Sri Lanka. Lester could be considered as a fanatical birder and overall naturalist as well. He is possibly the most reputed bird artist in Sri Lanka as well, with over a dozen solo exhibitions in Sri Lanka and many of his works in private collections too. Lester's personal forays into the wilds has taken him to Thailand, Maldives, Taiwan, and most recently to Kenya, searching for more birds and wildlife. As a devout wildlife sound recordist, his collection of Indian bird sounds alone exceeds over 450 recordings of rare and not so common bird species from all over India, Thailand, Andaman Islands, and Taiwan as well. Some of his recordings of Indian birds are included in an ebook of Hempfield Guides, Birds of the Indian Subcontinent. He's a member of the Rarities and Records Committee of the Ceylon Bird Club, apart from being a member in many nature societies and clubs. Well, there's a lot more to than this, my friends. You will get to know from Lester when he starts his his presentation. I'll quickly introduce myself as well. I am Mohit Agarwal. I'm blessed with 4 children, a son and a daughter, and 2 non-humans. So one is a Labrador, and the other one is an escapee African grey. Professionally, I'm an experiential ecotourism specialist with deep love for nature. I help people travel to some wonderful places in Asia. I'm on the board of Asian Ecotourism Network, and I've been trained and certified by GSTC in sustainable tourism. I'm the founder of Asian Adventure, the 27-year-old outfit. It is the largest birdwatching tour company in India. I'm also the founder of NetiNetter, an email marketing company. These companies are on a large mission to help Asian elephants with their corridors, free the Himalayas of plastic waste, help small wildlife NGOs, and also conserve the ancient Himalayan shrines. So that was a bit about me, friends. And over to you, Lester.
Thank you, Mohit. Yeah. Well, I always loved Vincent Van Gogh, and I think most of us birders, naturalists, we've done this. This is what we do, and this is what this is like our motto. So I'll start over here. We don't walk the usual thing. We are fanatics, and if someone says that you're a fanatic, take it as a compliment. Well, when I came to know myself, especially when I came to know love birds, I think the first bird I really loved was the paradise flycatcher, and that was when I was around 6 years old. So I've been traveling with my dad, who was a hunter at that time, and that was the norm. Most people did, you know. So eventually I gave up. I never had the chance to do any kind of hunting, and Dad didn't like me handling guns. So this was when I was doing voluntary work at the zoo, and I was more interested in reptiles. And this is me on the left, handling a reticulated python at the reptilium at the National Zoological Gardens, where I did voluntary work. On the right is when I did a bird watching trip with a few friends, and my friend on the far right is Gehan D.S. Vijayaratne, who's done a hell of a lot of writing about Sri Lankan birds. So we began birding together, you know. Right? And this was when we crossed the Singaraja forest, and we got lost, and we eventually appeared in a village, and this was while we were taking off our leeches, and then we posed for a photograph, you know, very primitive cameras we had at that time. So we'll go to the next. Yeah, this is on another trip. It is Gehan on the left and me on the far right. You can see my notebook, and then I had my snake stick over my bag on me holding that. Well, even at that time, we did not have that many books to refer to, you know, so we were compelled to look into birds and sketch them whenever possible, take notes as much as possible. And this was somewhere in 1982 when I did my first field sketches. So I still have it, and I treasure it a lot. So this is the beginning, and so towards the end, I will talk about my artwork as well. After having left school, I was looking for a job, and I always wanted to work with wildlife and animals. And while at school, Gihan and myself and a few friends, we organized a turtle nesting a hatchery at Bundala National Park, and that was in 1981. And then eventually that helped me a lot. And so one of the first books I read about turtles was, couldn't remember the author. It was called Turtles of Suriname, and which covered almost all the turtles, including the Kemp's Ridley in that part of South America. And so I got this job in 1986 to work on turtles at the National Aquatic Resources Agency, and the project did not have money to start with to get on turtles. So I was doing work on cetaceans, mainly monitoring the bycatch of dolphins at various harbors, monitoring the bycatch of turtles as well. And so during the same time, I was also inspecting randomly hatcheries, which was established by small hotels by the coast. And this is me on the left while checking one of those hatcheries. And on the right-hand side was ultimately when the funds did come, the National Aquatic Resources Agency built me a little hut in Bundala by the coast. And they also built me a watchtower where I could monitor dolphin movement. But at that time, although I said that it was not necessary because you hardly see dolphins close to shore. And the only dolphins you see close to shore are the bottlenose dolphins. And interestingly, there were several times when I did see bottlenose dolphins by the shore, maybe about 200 meters away. And I would also see large schools of spinner dolphins, but they could be mixed, but generally that's the norm. You know, the largest pods of dolphins we find in Sri Lankan waters are the spinner dolphins. So that was a very interesting time when I started my work. But you know, it was like it was like heaven, because just around 500 meters, about 100 meters away from this hut, is the salt pans in Bundala, where I did a lot of monitoring of flamingos. As we go on, I'll show you some of the one of the finds which I found in Bundala of pseudo nesting. So this was the very same time when I was grappling with identification of waders, and there was no books whatsoever. The only book we had was thankfully Salim Ali's book and G.M. Henry's, but it was a nightmare identifying the separate the skins and the plovers and the other sandpipers, the terns. But you know, as time went on by, you master it because you see these birds every day and you take notes down. So you will see some of the notes which I've taken later on. It was possibly the most interesting time of my life, and I had to walk to this hut. I had to walk around 5 kilometers through the scrub forest, and there were elephants during that time, and thankfully, I had no issues with elephants or any other animals. It was a beautiful time of my life. I'll never, ever forget the time at Bundala. I still do go there, and it's like my second home in Sri Lanka. Yeah, this was a coast which I would walk, start around 6 o'clock in the night, evening, and end up around 5 o'clock in the morning. And this patch of beach is the best patch for leatherback turtles. And leatherbacks you would have around, during the season, around up to about 25 nests. And the whole idea was to extract the eggs and bring it to a safe location which was just opposite the hut, which was shown in the previous slide. Well, finding the nest, the eggs or the nest chamber, egg chamber of the other turtles was not so difficult. You have a stick and you probe, and then you of course damage a few eggs, but then you find the chamber if the turtle is not there. And if the turtle does come ashore and you have one path, and you don't use lights when you're monitoring the beach. So if you have one path, you're lucky because you know the turtles come and it's laying the eggs. And if you have two paths, then it's a nightmare. You've got to keep on probing in a spot. The worst of issues you have is if you have a leatherback, because they dishevel a massive area, about 10 square, I would say about 5 square meters, and finding the nest chamber is a virtual nightmare. And this little stint is one of the first photographs I took with a camera, and that was a Nikon. I think it's a 50mm lens. So we had to get as close as possible, and I still have it, and I treasure these photographs a lot. So this is how I began, and Bundala now has changed tremendously, and I probably will need a totally different time to talk about Bundala. The changes are enormous, and to the detriment of birds, unfortunately. Well, the fanaticism keeps on growing and growing and growing, and it never ends. So my first trip outside Sri Lanka birding, I wouldn't say first, but this was the first real hardcore birding was to the Western Ghats in 2000. And that was a very, very good experience. And I remember looking for places, cheap places in outside Perera. I did Perera, Munnar, Ooty, Mudumale. So I had quite a lot of experiences there, which is really fine. And the picture on the right-hand side, it's got a, I would say, emotional as well. We did a recce with Asian Adventures in 2005 to North India. So we did Corbett, and then in and around Ramnagar, and we went to Pankot, and Pankot was bliss. And the rest of the group decided had to get back. And I said, no, I'm going to stay back, and I'm going to do some birding. So Lokesh was in training. Lokesh was at Pankot at Junglefowl, and at that time that was the only place. And Mohit pioneered these birding lodges around India, and he did a fantastic job. I think I mentioned it to you by saving the cheer pheasants, and he's still making major efforts and informing the people and making the people aware that the grasslands are very important. So from Pankot, I needed to go to Sattal, and Mohit's father came up to Junglefowl, and he drove me to Sattal. And this is the garden at Sattal. I couldn't remember the name of the property at that time. And he was such a beautiful person. And he did stop at Nainital, and he got some jalebi, and he loved sweets. And we were munching on the sweets until we reached Sattal. And at Sattal, there was Ganesh Adhikari was working at the lodge there. And Ganesh showed me around Sattal. And that was my first experience with a king cobra there. It was feeding on a rat snake, and it got alarmed and let go the rat snake. The snake scrambled across the road, and the cobra uh, moved the other way to the forest. So I saw some fantastic birds. But to tell you that I did another trip, which is very interesting, because I love India. So this was in 2004 when I did from Sultanpur. We did Corbett and Dikala, and at Dikala I met Ratan Singh, and that's how I came to know about Mohit, and that's how we got in touch with Mohit in 2005 and did the recce. And from on that trip, we did not go to Pankot. We didn't know about Pankot. We did Binsa, and then from Binsa we through Ranikhet we went to Shimla, and we went to see the cheer pheasant in Chile, because there was a pheasantry in Chile, and from we failed to see it there, and then we drove from there to Darangati. What was fantastic place, and because we were targeting the western tragopan there, we saw some fantastic birds there as well. And then we ended up at Great Himalayan National Park. So that's part of the Indian journey, and it never ends. India is not one country; it's many countries. It's incredible, and that's the most apt of words, I would say, because when you say yes, you would shake your head. What more can you say about India? And the Westerners go berserk. So let's go to the next slide. Yeah, this is on the same trip. I was having, this was, from there I took the bus to Bharatpur. But before that, on the picture on the right is having chai at Binayak at Pankot area. And then I was at the railway station, took the train from Bharatpur to Delhi to fly back home. It's very, very interesting times. Yeah, this is the area which Mohit has been at, and this is possibly the most sort of guaranteed of places in India to see the cheer pheasant. Lately, there are many other places, and quite a lot of birders finding new places. But this was a cheer point which I have spent many on many tours. I spent a lot of time here looking for cheer pheasant, and we almost always get cheer pheasant. It's a fantastic bird. So we get back to the Sri Lankan aspect of it. Yeah, we got 238 breeding species, and it might increase because in 2003 we found, and after that we found quite a few other species breeding on the Adams Bridge or the Ramas Bridge, the sandbanks connecting to South India, Rameswaram. And then we have 216 migrant species. They're increasing. There are quite a few vagrants going up to 80 and maybe more. A couple of weeks ago, we found a few more pelagics as well. So these numbers will increase, and I will get onto the pelagic aspect later on. We consider 33 endemics now, and taxonomists are working vehemently on many spheres of birds, and these numbers, I believe, may increase with genetic work being done. So the 66 plus subspecific forms may get elevated. I think they should get elevated, and not all, but some are pretty obvious, and most birders are pretty much aware of that. So we got 44 endemics to South Asia, and I'm sure most of you know about the birds which are found in South India, North India, which do migrate during the winter to to Sri Lanka. So I'm going to talk about the endemics because endemics are what lots of people are pretty keen on when they come to Sri Lanka, and also the northern migrants such as the Kashmir flycatcher, the pied thrush, Indian pitta. These are the birds that lots of people, especially Westerners, would love to see. Of course, Indian birders also do come to Sri Lanka in order to see the Kashmir flycatcher and the pied thrush. Yeah, Deepak, who works with Mohit, who is a fantastic guide, said that he's found the location for the Kashmir flycatcher in Kashmir, which is not an easy feat. So that's a big find. So congratulations, Mohit. You and your team are doing fantastic work. So I couldn't recommend any other company than Asian Adventures, and they pioneered almost all tours in India, from mammals to butterflies to dragonflies, everything, and all top guides. Yeah, so this is the junglefowl, Sri Lanka junglefowl. It's a national bird of Sri Lanka, and it's a male on the left. And then we have the Sri Lanka spurfowl, once again a male. Sadly, we try to highlight the males rather than the females. Interestingly, this junglefowl on the male, I see that the combs differ from the wet zone, and the dry zone birds differ. The dry zone birds have much larger combs. Maybe eventually I'll write a paper on that. But it can be pretty contentious. So anyhow, it's these two birds are stunning birds, and the spurfowl is a pretty difficult bird to see. Probably one of the nightmare birds to a leader, and thankfully there are now feeding stations. If you be at the right time, right place, you should be able to see it. It's not too difficult, but if you don't know the right places, right times, and that kind of thing, so you can easily miss this. 10-15 years ago, it was a real nightmare. It is still a nightmare bird if the conditions are not right, and if the bird doesn't come to feed, and you have only maybe 2 days, maybe 3 days at a location to see this bird. It's a stunning bird. Yeah, on the left is the Sri Lanka wood pigeon, another pretty bird, and they do migrate to the lowlands around March, April, but they're generally found in the high hills. And the most similar the looking bird is the Nilgiri wood pigeon. I remember seeing the Nilgiri wood pigeon in Kunur, and I was thrilled to bits and pieces. This is a little south of Ooty. So that is just to touch on the Indian aspect of it. Of course, and on the right-hand side is the Sri Lanka green pigeon. They were lumped together some time ago, and now the southern Western Ghats bird is the grey-fronted, and this is the Sri Lanka green pigeon. You see the yellow front of the forehead in Arbor. The one on the right, the male is on the right, and the female is on the left. Yeah, this is another common endemic. It's not too difficult to see the bird. One of the most prettiest birds. The closest, the one which the hanging this Ceylon hanging parrot. The closest the most similar looking bird is found apparently in the Philippines, but in South India you get, and throughout the India and into Thailand, South Asia, East Asia, you do find the vernal hanging parrot. The picture I digiscoped in my garden, and I was wondering, I always wondered as to why we had so many birds, because it's known to breed in tree holes. But I found a bird nesting in a fishtail palm tree, and it's in between the branch. So they nest. Most of them do nest in between the branch and the trunk, in the cavity. So that's an interesting find. This I did find it in 2000, I think. That was around 2008. So the same bird on the right hand side feeding on guava. The bird on the left, the most similar looking bird, is the Malabar parakeet, endemic, and this is named after Layard, and it's a Layard's parakeet, and it's a pretty common bird but confined to the lower hills. And then we have our flagship species, the red-faced malkwart, and it's found in good forested regions of the country, but not as common as in Singaraj and some of the other places around where we go birding in the wet zone. But I've seen it in Udawalawe, I've seen it in Lahugala, and then in Waskamu, in other parts of the country. But it's a bird found in well-wooded forests. But the numbers are diminishing in those regions, and it's now more often seen in Singaraj, in the wet zone. Singaraja is a World Heritage Site, our rainforest. It's a very, very important birding site. So this is the green-billed cuckoo on the left, and the chestnut-backed owlet on the right-hand side. And the green-billed cuckoo is very similar to the greater cuckoo, but pretty shy, obvious apple green bill, and the calls are pretty distinct. And then the chestnut-backed owlet on the right-hand side, beautiful, beautiful owl. All birders love owls, and this is a stunning owl. And once again, it's found only in the wet zone. Most of these birds I showed you are found in the wet zone forests. And the chestnut-backed owlet you don't find in the dry zone, the lower the dry zone, but mainly in the wet zone and in the lower and mid hills, not in the high hills. Well, this is the Cerebes Cupcell, which is discovered by Deepal Barakagoda in 2002, and it's probably the most photographed owl in Sri Lanka, and very, very interesting owl. It's very difficult to find, and it's ironic that the British, who did a lot of work in Sri Lanka, did not find this owl. And congratulations to Deepal for having found this bird. And this owl, I think, brought us a lot of bird tourism, avian tourism to Sri Lanka, and it's a fantastic bird. Taxonomically, I think there is, although it's in the genus Otus, it may change. I think it may change because those experts have been talking about it. I mean, if you look at it, you will see that there's some features not very akin with the others of the genus, because the ear tufts here, what you see are not true ear tufts, but pseudo ear tufts. They erect them just like most owls do. So we'll go to the next one. This is possibly, I would say, one of the most photographed owls and most sought after owls in the world. These are on the left is the crimson fronted barbet. Rasmussen named called it the small barbet, and this was conspecific with the Malabar barbet. But when I did my trip in 2002, and during which time it was lumped together, I saw that there was a distinct difference, and I was expecting that someday it would get split, and eventually did. So it's a very pretty barbet. It's very similar to the coppersmith barbet, but if you look at there's no streaking on the breast, and the orange color around the eyes is more orange, whereas in the coppersmith it's more lemon yellow sort of. And then we have the yellow fronted barbet on the right, very pretty bird, very common in the wet zone. Both these birds are more common in the wet zone and not in the dry zone. And it's not too difficult. It's more or less a cakewalk to see these two birds. Yeah, we have this is the grey hornbills, Sri Lanka hornbill on the left, just like the Malabar hornbill, but distinctly different. Once again, not too difficult. It's found in the wet zone and the dry zone, widespread bird, but in good forests. And on the right is the crimson back flameback, which was lumped together with previously it was the greater flameback, and this is the subspecific form which got elevated by Rasmussen. Very pretty bird, very difficult to see, but found throughout the island in well-wooded forests, even in the high hills. Yeah, this is interesting work. I think Deepal did the initial work on it, and this the redback flameback on the left. This got split pretty recently, and you have the Indian form, which is the black rum flameback, and this was split, and there's a little bit of hybridization, and there's a little bit of overlap in the borders, and some of them have more orangish on the mantle. And on the right is the Sri Lanka Woodstrike. Once again, both these birds are found throughout the island, not too difficult, pretty easy to see. The Woodstrike is not so common in the wet zone, but pretty common in the dry zone. You can you would find it in the intermediate zone, so it's not too difficult. And this was also split from the common Woodstrike by Rasmussen. The calls were and some of the morphological features were the reason for it to be split. Yeah, the one on the left is possibly the most beautiful bird in Sri Lanka when it comes to the endemics, which is the blue magpie, Sri Lanka magpie. It's a stunning bird. Once again, you find it in the high hills and in the lower hills as well. But it's highly localized. It's not easy to see it. If you do go to the right places, and the right assistance, then you will see it. It's very important to calls are very important to listen to these birds. Almost all birds, you need to know about the calls very well in order to see it, because if you hear the calls, you wait and put, and then eventually you will get it. Yeah, the bird on the right is a Sri Lanka swallow, and this was also split by Rasmussen. This subspecies was endemic to Sri Lanka, was elevated. So likewise, some of the other subspecific forms may get elevated in the future. Very pretty bird, widespread throughout the island, less in the high hills though. Yeah, the one on the left is the Sri Lanka drongo. Once again, it was this subspecies Lophorinus was considered endemic. Most of these birds were considered endemic by the early ornithologists, and they were lumped later on, and then Rasmussen and Anderton did the monumental work, and of course Dylan Ripley also was instrumental in putting them in that slot and are elevated. Same with the black-capped bulbul. This was lumped together with the South Indian flame-throated bulbul. Once again, when I saw the bird in South India, I thought, oh my gosh, this is so different. The eyes were pale, red throat. And I was wondering why it was lumped together and why it was not a species, a separate species. So likewise, as I said before, these things will change very fast, like it is happening in other parts of the world. One of the most beautiful bulbuls in the world, I would say, this the yellow-eared bulbul, which is found in the high hills. And the bird on the right is the Sri Lanka bush warbler, also found in the high hills. So they are highly localized, and so it's not easy to see this bird on the right, the bush warbler, is not easy. And the bulbul, I think I'm quite sure that even the genus will change. I remember reading something in Birding Asia by Nigel Collar. Nigel Collar's column on birds is just fantastic. It's really interesting to read because there's so much of information, and I think the genus may change, like most other birds, and it may not be in the Pycnonotus, the genus, and may go to a different one. Just as much as the bush warbler was considered by Vincent Legg as Epornis. Sorry, not exactly remember, but it was in its own genus, and then it was put into the Bradipterus genus, and then put it in its own genus. So this is a male, very interesting, beautiful bird, very, very skittish, and one of those nightmare birds when it comes to a leader, because the weather conditions can change in the hills. That there's so many issues when it comes to say it's like a mouse creeping through the bush. I mean, birders know about these things, so it's a very interesting bird. Sorry about this slide. Yes, the one on the bird on the left is the Sri Lanka Scimitar Babbler, and this was also lumped together with the South Indian subspecies, and now it's split, and so this is the Sri Lanka Scimitar Babbler. Calls differ very much, and morphologically it also differs. The bird on the right is the brown Cap Babbler, and very interesting, because when I was the first encounter I had with the puff-throated babbler in Kunur, because I'm not much of a photograph. Most of these photographs are from a friend of mine who's one of the top bird photographers in Sri Lanka. So the first time I was encountered this the puff-throated babbler in Kunur, and I heard this, I thought, oh my gosh, is it the brown cap babbler? And then the calls are so similar. It sings calls pretty dear, and then I did record the territorial song, which when I analyzed with the brown cap babbler had similarities but different. Very interesting. Puff-throated babbler is throughout India. I think it goes up to even the Himalayan foothills and eastwards. The bird on the left is the orange-tailed babbler. Not too difficult to see. The previous two birds also are not too difficult to see. They are also, hold on, I'll just go back. I'm sorry about this. Yeah, both these species are found in well-wooded forests throughout the island, from the high hills to the lower hills and the plains as well. Not so much with the scimitar babbler, but the brown cap babbler, yes, is found throughout the island in well-wooded forests. Yeah, getting back on, the orange-billed babbler is quite localized. So it's in the rainforest area, and also if you can find it in the high hills. So it's a pretty common bird. You find feeding bird waves in Singaraja, where they maximize on feeding and conservation of energy. So you find them. It's a nuclear species in feeding flocks in Singaraja. And the bottom one is a relic species, one of the ashy-headed laughing thrush. Once again, it's highly localized and can be difficult to see. And Singaraja is the best place to see it, and it's a typical rainforest bird. So there can be times when you have to really search for it, and it can be a true nightmare. So the Sri Lanka hill myna also found in, it's highly localized in the wet zone and the mid hills. Singaraja is possibly the best place. Same with the white-faced starling, iconic bird, very difficult to see. Sometimes you can easily miss this bird because it's very difficult to see. So you've got to have good assistance to find it. There are times when you can see it, early mornings, late evenings, when they perch on their way to the roost and to the feeding ground. Yeah, the spot-winged thrush is also a common bird, easy to see in well-wooded wet zone forests. And the bird on the right is the Sri Lanka whistling thrush, another nightmare bird to our leaders, which is found in Horton Plains, in the high hills. So it's all about timing, listening to calls, knowing the locations, and spending sufficient time to see the bird. It's not an easy bird. You can easily miss if you don't spend enough time, and if you don't know the locations and the times, you can easily miss this bird. It's a beautiful, stunning bird. It's possibly the smallest of the whistling thrushes, my finest genus. The closest, the others are quite big ones, the Malabar and the blue whistling thrush in India. I'm sure there are more Indian enthusiasts who would like to look for this bird in Sri Lanka. Yeah, The one on top is the dull blue flycatcher, and once again found in the high hills, not so easy elsewhere. So you've got to go to the high hills, and it's pretty common in the high hills. I wouldn't say pretty common, but there can be times when it's difficult, but not so. If you spend sufficient time, you can see it. The legs flower pecker also found in the lower in the rainforests and the lower hills. Pretty bird. This is a male, and the female is a little duller, as usual. And then on top is the Sri Lanka white eye, and also found in good numbers, easy to see. You can find large flocks in the high hills, and it's I wouldn't say large flocks, but small flocks, and they're found all over, so it's not too difficult. And the bird on the right is the Sri Lanka thrush. It was lumped again, and it goes as white thrush imbricata subspecies. But when I talk with experts, they still think it has to be that it will split. So it differs quite well with the Nilgiri thrush, which is found in South India, and it's an interesting, very interesting bird. Very difficult to see, extremely difficult to see. It's all about listening, knowing the spots where they feed, where they loiter. So you find it mainly in the forests such as Singaraj and also in Horton Plains. So you can find it from the mid hills to the high hills. This is another bird which is still lumped with the South Indian race, and this is the Blackthroated Bunia. And if you look at the scalation or the feathering morphologically, it's distinctly different. It's what is known as that is that it's difficult to analyze their calls because they are subsonic and or hypersonic. I really couldn't remember, and so you have to have special recording equipment, which they've still not done that bit of it. So it's still lumped with the South Indian black-throated Bunia, but I mean, if you look at the birds, they are distinctly different. So this is another species which will get elevated. So interesting. So likewise, we will have lots of other birds getting elevated to species status in the future. Right. So I'm getting back to Bundalak, and this was the first ever nesting, pseudo nesting, what I would refer to as pseudo nesting, because they did not nest, and this kind of thing had happened in the Camargue in France as well. But in France, they did lay eggs, but they did not incubate them. That we really don't know, but in Sri Lanka, they just only built the nest. Now, this whole region had many brackish water lakes, and in the 80s, mid 80s, yes, that whole region was developed, and it's still being developed at the moment. So we don't see any flamingos in the south of Sri Lanka anymore. You can have a small flock which will come maybe once a year, once in 2 years, maybe up to about 10, 15, 20 birds will come to the south. And then right now, most of the birds are in the north. When I did work in the south, I would count. I have counts of about 2 to 3 years counts, and they varied went up to about 3,000, and the lowest would be about 1,500. So I believe that they keep on moving to the north and south, and then there are certain groups, mature groups, which migrate to the Rann of Kutch where they breed. Those are the flocks which keep on moving. But they are found throughout the year in Sri Lanka, so it's not too difficult to find these birds. But right now, the only region you can find it is in the north of Sri Lanka, and the north of Sri Lanka is just fantastic for many reasons, which I'll come into in my latest slides. And what is important is, like, we India, Sri Lanka, we've been talking about tourism, wildlife tourism, winter wildlife tourism. That's from November to March, April. It is good, yes, but most of the other birds are year-round here, and I think Asian Adventures and Mohit has been promoting monsoon birding, which is a very good thing. And wildlife tourism should exist throughout the year. It's a sad story. Our countries have been promoting tourism only for a certain part of the year, but the mammals don't fly. The mammals are always there. Most of the birds are always there, except for a few birds which are difficult. But most of the migrants are seen elsewhere in other parts of the world, and they're much easier in those parts of the world, and most of them are common as well. Yeah, it was in 2003 when I did a tour to the north west of Sri Lanka, to the sandbanks of Mena or Hanuman's Bridge, when I discovered bridal terns nesting there. That was possibly one of the biggest highlights of my life. And since then, we've found the sooty terns nesting there, Saunders terns. There's a new paper in Birding Asia, the last issue, on the Saunders tern and little terns breeding there. The common terns nest there. The roseate terns nest there. Lately, the brown noddies have been nesting. This part of the country is fantastic for waders. Millions of waders throughout the during the winter season, the migrants. But these are the birds nesting on the Adams Bridge. Is from April, goes on till around July, August, and they are there. So it's fantastic piece of land for birding. Of course, it's restricted. You cannot approach the bird, get onto the islands. This was some time ago, but it has helped them to breed, and the protection is a great necessity to preserve these birds. But you still can go in boats and observe them from a distance. Yeah, these are roseate terns on the left, and then breeding birds, and sooty terns on the right-hand side. Yeah, so it was in 2009 which we, me and my colleague at NARA, Anukilangakon, who's a cetacean expert, we managed to get funds and to work on a joint effort on cetaceans and seabirds, and we found lots of interesting birds and movements. Some of the movements which I'm still studying. Sri Lanka probably is one of the best places to see some of the pelagic birds, which are difficult elsewhere. But you got to spend sufficient time, and there are two windows. One is in the north during the northwest monsoon, and the southwest monsoon, which is from September, late September, October till around mid-November, and that is most often with the northward migration of quite a few species, and also from March, February, March till around April, June. But the fact, and it can extend to around July. But the fact is that, once the southwest monsoon starts around April, mid-April to late April, the sea conditions can be pretty dicey, very difficult. So it's very difficult to observe the birds unless you're in a good boat, large boat. But we've been recording quite a number of new species. We recorded quite a few. One, which was the white-faced storm petrel, during our study. But later on, we've been doing work on while doing whale watching tours. We've been observing other species, and lately we have a group formed, and we are studying seabirds, and we hope to take it to a new level. And this is some of my photographs out at sea. This is Wilson storm petrel, the most popular of any species of birds breeding in the Antarctic. And the bottom bird is a Swino storm petrel. These birds can be, identification can be very, very difficult. So there is a migration of the Swino storm petrel, which I'm studying, and along with the Wilson storm petrels. So there was black-bellied storm petrel and also the white-faced storm petrel. I'm sure there are tons of other birds to be discovered. There are no barriers for them to fly, so we are discovering new birds as well. This is probably one of the commonest seabirds, pelagic birds. This is a wedge-tailed shearwater, settled down, calm sea. This was somewhere around April in 2015. The bird at the bottom is also same, flying. This is a Juvenile petrel on the left. This picture was taken by Gary Allport, who is supporting us a lot with seabird identification issues, studies, etc. And there's a paper which is coming out probably in June, interesting paper. And the bottom one, I think, maybe the first or second positive record of a sooty shearwater. There are more sooty shearwaters than we ever thought. Same with the Swino storm petrel. We thought there were few birds flying every now and then, probably vagrants. But we counted over, I think, on one particular day, we counted over 40 or 50 birds. And so we are finding large numbers of these birds. Yeah, so we are seeing this, both birds, the masked booby and the red-footed booby. We had a few sightings of them recently, and I'm sure they are more numerous than we ever thought. The fact remains that there's less work being done. I think pelagic birds are the least studied birds, and its identification is also has been a major issue in the past. But with the advent of the technology advancements with cameras, identification issues can be solved much easily. This is also a brown booby. We've been seeing this bird regularly irregularly, I would say, but that's simply because we have not been going out, and it most of these sightings also happen because of whale watching uh, cruises out from the southern part of Sri Lanka, and also most of the work also is based there. Some of the work we based our work in 2009 in the south because it was more conducive for us to work. The infrastructure is there, the boats are there, the vessels are there, so it's much more easier to work in the south. Whereas the infrastructure in the northeast is interesting. I've seen short-tail shearwaters of Trincomalee, and there's a lot of work to be done on the eastern part of Sri Lanka. And the bridal tern, which was believed to be a passage migrant, it's not so. They are breeding and resident. Part of the population may be migrating to other parts of the world, further southwards, uh, inclusive of the populations breeding the lacadives. So this is a very, very interesting sphere in birding when it comes to pelagic birds. Yeah, the birds on these are the long-tailed skuas. Uh, we've been monitoring movements lately, and we intend studying these movements continuously. So there is a southward northward movement. We know there is a southward movement as at present, but we need to monitor as to when the northward movement happens, which is very, very interesting. Yeah, this is the first recorded street shearwater this year on one of our pelagic tours. And if we are seeing these birds, why not other rarities? Uh, so I'm also looking every time I look at the Swino storm petrels. I'm looking for a Matsudaira storm petrel, and every time we see these shearwaters, we have the camera go berserk on AK-47 mode, bursts. 10 cameras in bursts is crazy, and it's fantastic, to go out with people who are really keen bird watchers, and especially on into pelagics. And it's also very interesting that all over the world there's a lot of emphasis into seabirds, and some of the more monumental work is being done by Hadoram Shirihai and many people. There's a fantastic couple of groups on Facebook, the pelagic groups, who are doing fantastic work. So, talking about mammals, like I said, we got quite a few mammals, of which the most interesting, from what I know, to me, is the dolphins and whales, which I've been studying, and along with Anukilanga. And recently, after a very long time, did see the striped dolphin and the resource dolphins more often now. Uh, we have a few beaked whales, which is very, very important, and they are very, very cryptic, very difficult to see, which is very, very important studying as well. So the fact is also that it's very expensive to do these studies, because boats are expensive and all that. The other interesting group of mammals are the bats and the smaller mammals, and a lot of work is being done, but elsewhere. But in Sri Lanka, I'm not too sure whether uh, uh, intensive work is being done on the smaller mammals. I'm sure there are few new mammals we discovered, especially the mice and the shrews. I've seen some time ago there was a published photograph shrew, unidentified shrew. So most of these mammals, the small cat tours have become very popular, and it's not too difficult to see the russet spotted cat, the fishing cat, and the jungle cat. These are easily found if you spend sufficient time at sufficient locations. Sri Lanka also is reputed for having the largest elephant gatherings. So mammals wise, we're pretty good, you know. We got the dugong in our waters. Once again, difficult, but you got to, if you spend sufficient time, it's easy. But coming back to the cetacean point of view, Sri Lanka is the best place to see the blue whale. There's almost 100% money back guarantee on seeing them during the right time of the year. So I'll go into those. Yeah, this is the blue whale. Pretty interesting because some time ago there was someone who there was a interest in doing some genetic work on this on the blue whale, and this species is within the Indian Ocean. I think Blythe named it the Indian Ocean blue whale, or Balinoptera musculus indicus. And because it's much smaller than that two other species, the musculus, which is the largest, and the brevicorda, which is found in the Australasian waters. There are a lot of interesting things about this whale. I'm sure it's going to be it should be a species because there's no overlap within the ranges, to my knowledge. So that's an interesting find. It's a stunning experience, and this phenomenon that's why I said we don't have a time frame for tourism in Sri Lanka. You can see them in the south from November till around March, April, and then again you can move to the east, and then from May till around August you can see them. August, September you can see them in the east. So this is a megapod of sperm whales in the south. You can have massive pods. Interestingly, they have a matriarchal hierarchy, and the females are small. And the first time I saw these whales was in 1986 when I did my initial work at the National Aquatic Resources Agency. And this pod had around 50 animals, mainly females. Seldom you'll find a male in the pod. They tend to come during the breeding time. Sometimes they're hanging around. Very, very interesting. And the most interesting would be to see them logging. And this is a moment when the pod was logging. So there would be about 10 or 15 animals logging, and then they dive after a while. The next set comes in. But sometimes you can have more than that, up to about 25, 30 whales logging at times. So there's so many phenomena in the behavioral phenomena, which is very, very interesting if you spend sufficient time out at sea. So pelagic tours apparently is becoming pretty interesting in our waters. This is another set of photographs of the sperm whales. We do also find the large pods of spinner dolphins, which is a treat out at sea. Short fin pilot whales are not too rare if you spend enough time. Resource dolphins, bottlenose dolphins. So there's, out of the 27 species, or 28 species, at least you should be able to see 5 or 6 species. The brooders whales or bride's whale is also commonly seen, a smaller whale, very interesting. So you see the brooders whale in the south as well as in the east. All these animals are seen throughout the island, throughout the year, different locations, of course. But it's not like in India, you have to travel from the west to the east, which can take several days. So here it's a couple of hours, several hours, and then you're in a different part of the country, and you can go see these fantastic marine mammals. Yeah, sea turtles. This is also a common occurrence. We commonly seen uh, uh, seas, coastal waters. Not so far. These are amorous uh, olive ridleys. Uh, Olive ridleys are the commonest of the species. We do also have the green turtles, which are also pretty common. Hawksbill is rare, but the rarest would be the loggerheads. So loggerheads are more pelagic, and we rarely see the loggerheads. And same with the leatherbacks. So getting back to the mammals, I don't have to say much. There's so much interest into leopards now. There's so many people hounding after leopards. So I don't want to talk too much about leopards. You have your own issues in India, elsewhere, all the big cats. Everyone is hounding after them. Just as same with the snow leopard out in Ladakh and Mongolia, there are a lot of tourism. So lots of things happening throughout the world with wildlife tourism. Sad that the times are pretty dire at the moment. Yeah, so I'm getting to a totally different realm where I involve myself, embed myself in my bird studies and my bird art part of it. So this is, I think, somewhere around 96, 97, when I heard of a juvenile crested hawk eagle, a nestling actually, and then it had fallen from the nest, and these are the sketches on the right hand side. Yeah, like Mohit did say, this is one of the paintings I donated to the Oriental Bird Club, and this is what I love doing. I make a living from wildlife, and it is my duty to donate back, give back to wildlife, what I get from it. And so this is a chestnut backed owlet watercolor painting, which I donated to the Oriental Bird Club, which is auctioned at the British Bird Fair and sold. And luckily, I remember showing this bird to Brian Sykes, and it's now owned by Brian Sykes. He bought it at the Bird Fair at the OBC stand. Yeah. So this is another painting which I did. So this is the initial sketch. You see, you get into the realm of doing things. It pops in your mind of the pose, and it's basically mostly imagination. You do a sketch, and then it transpires into a painting. So this painting is of the red-faced malkuha, which I did, I think, 98 or some, or around 98 or 99. So this is a picture, but if you'll notice that I had taken the photograph but not done the painting of the legs. So I'm sad that I have no photograph of the painting which I finished. And so this is one of my paintings which I liked a lot, and this was also donated to OBC and sold at the OBC stand. I couldn't remember exactly who bought it, but a well-known birder. Yeah. So this is a second record of the eyebrow thrush in New Australia. This is a sketch which I did immediately out there, and then came back to the hotel and finished the sketch with all the details. The bottom one is of the first observed nest of a frogmouth. This was, I think, around 96, 97. Yeah, these are some of the sketches I did in the field. One on the left is the dark-fronted babblers. And once again, the dark-fronted babblers is a very, very pretty bird. It's a small but interesting bird. So on the right is a spot-billed duck and the referent. Yeah, the one on the right is the white-bellied woodpecker, which I think I remember doing it way back on one of my tours in South India. And the one on the right is the Malabar trogons. These are basically field sketches. I'm just trying to. These are parts of my notebooks. This is something I remember some time ago when Ashish Petty did his talk with Delhi Bird. He was talking about old-time birding, which is very interesting. You do a lot of observations. You pick up feathers. These feathers are of the blue-faced malpo, and I saw it preening, and it dropped 3 feathers, and I immediately picked it up. So it's so important to observe birds. Fortunately, on there are pluses and minuses in any field. But we see tons of photographers with very expensive material, the equipment, taking fantastic photographs. We enjoy these photographs tremendously. But there's nothing like observing a bird for a long time, enjoying its flight, behavior, all that, and doing the notes. That's part of me, and people's views maybe differ. Of course, people are all different. These are my pen and ink and pen illustrations, I would say. These are from the cultural site in the central part of Sri Lanka in Tamil Nadu. There is an owl on the towards a little to the left of the illustration on the top one, and on the right hand side of the Buddha statue. That's a barn owl, because the barn owl is found in that part of the ruin area. One of my two of the paintings which I love a lot, and I love doing black and white illustration, and these are done in the forest while I'm seated, and I do these ink sketches, and it goes on and on and on. You get into sort of a trance, and it becomes more or less a spiritual, and it has a spiritual perspective, because you're in a sort of meditative mode, and it carries you. It's such a fantastic experience to do black and whites. Yeah, the one on the left is the dark-fronted babblers, and this is one of my benchmarks in my black and white ink sketches, and I love it a lot. And, unfortunately or fortunately, I've sold it, and but it's a beautiful painting. I love it so much. The one on the right is also a barn owl in the same area as I mentioned from the earlier slides. It's one of those guard statues, and a barn owl. The barn owls do nest in at that site. So these are the acrylic paintings I've done. On the left is the mountain hawk eagle, and the bottom is stalk-bill kingfisher. Once again, acrylic on canvas. The top one is the flamingos. Bottom is my favorite bird, the dwarf kingfisher. I've done quite a few dwarf kingfishers, and I love the dwarf kingfisher. It's jewel in our crown. I think it's one of the most beautiful kingfishers in the world. Yeah, the inspiration to the osprey painting came from Baratpur, not from Baratpur, from Ranthambore. This was one morning we were waiting for Machali to turn up, and it was misty, it was cold, and there was this one bird was not quite a distance away, but the other one was closer. So this picture was there in my mind. So when I got back home, I think I did take a photograph. I had a photograph from a bridge camera, and I kept on sketching and sketching, and then I did this painting, and then I wanted to go on putting on more detail, and then I just at some point I stopped and I was wondering, do I need to do more work on this or not? And then I just left it for I think several months. It's about 5 feet by 3.5 foot painting on canvas, and I just left it. And eventually, I figured out that I let it be, and it's in my house, and probably I'll never part with this painting. It's something painting which I like very much. The bottom one is a jungle owlet, which I sketched in the south at a site and did it on canvas. These are ashy wood swallows. Once again, acrylic on canvas. Uh, Another painting I loved a lot. And then the Indian roller on watercolor painting. Mm, yeah, common kestrel and the little turns. I remember the little turns I did it somewhere in Yala and at Yala Village Hotel. I couldn't remember the Yala Beach Hotel or something like that, which got washed away by the tsunami. This was just before the tsunami. This was for a book which is the script had already been written by W.W. Phillips for something called Showbirds, and then this was the script was given to Gehan by Phillips's daughter, and eventually Gehan decided not to continue because the script was somewhat obsolete, and he decided to do a different book, and we did it. He titled it Showbirds. Showbirds, an artist in the field, and featured me in some of the articles, which is so. This is one of those paintings I loved a lot, just doing in the field. This would have taken maybe about 15-20 minutes. Yeah, this is same old story. This is a series of paintings which I did for the Phillips's book. Same with these, the brown-headed gulls and the little stints. Yeah, this is a marsh harrier, and this was a painting which of the spot wind thrush which I did separately. It just happens, you decide on a bird and you just start sketching, and then you put the background and it works out well. So you have failures and trials and errors in your work, painting work. Yeah, this is some of the same work, but these were not in the field. These were done at home. This is a comparison between a little ring plover and a ring plover, and at the bottom is yellow water lapwings. Yeah, this is one of my favorite Indian birds, the falconer, and this bird on the right, the kingfisher. I did it at while I was at the Andaman Islands at island called Jolly Boy, and my clients were snorkeling when I did the sketch, and I just enjoyed doing it there, and it was fantastic. Of course, the coloring was done at the hotel. Megabird's Nest, lots of birders may know Megabird's Nest at Port Blair. Yeah, this is rendition to Mohit's helping me with a tour. He always helped me. Listen, where do you want to go? And he organizes the hotel, so I stay free of charge. And he does it all the time. And this painting at the bottom of the white-throated laughing thrush was done at Parrot. So I still remember doing it, and location, having a look at it every now and then, saying nice, nice, and that kind of thing. Yeah, this is some of the recent paintings during the lockdown. Lockdown has brought a lot of dividends to me. I have enough time to do my painting. So common kingfishers and then Indian roller. Oh, well, so thank you very much. This is the, I hope you can read it. It's a beautiful song by a band called Rush, written by Giddy Lee. I'm sure, I think Mohit's son is into rock music, but the poetry is beautiful, simple, beautiful poetry. This is what we are grappling with. And we don't know what the future holds, but it's our duty to do whatever is possible in every sense to save what we already have. So thank you. Thank you, Asian Adventures. Thank you, Mohit. Thank you, Mohit, for being a good friend. And we'll continue to work, give our life to nature. Nature has given us a life. And I end my talk. Thank you, Mohit.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lester. So friends, I'm not wrong when I say that we have Lester, who's a storehouse of knowledge. He's walking encyclopedia. The man is not just about what he knows; it's about his knowing. It's about his spirituality, his devotion, his commitment to carry on his work, and that's the beauty of it. That's how it's about the intensity that he has put into his lifetime job and his passion. So that itself, it's showing right here the kind of stuff that he has shown. It's not about the presentation. It's about how he has taken you through this entire journey of where he started, what he did, about the birds, about the pelagics, about the everything that he talked about, and then he ended up with all the passionate stuff that he's got in store with him, with his art and how he looks at it. So I think, and there's a lot more than that, I must tell you, that he hasn't talked about it because he can't talk about everything in 1 hour or 1.5 hours. So there's a lot more than that. You need to go to Sri Lanka and spend time with him. And don't worry about the season. These islands, they give you everything in any season. So you'll never be short of experiences. And when Lester is there, he will know exactly what to do. So Lester, there are people asking some questions if you'd like to answer. One or two questions. I just saw. So he says, Ankit is asking what is the best time to photograph whales?
Yeah, the best time would be from around November, December, January, February. Those would be the best times. And that is in the south of Sri Lanka, but if you move to the east of Sri Lanka to Trincomalee, from May, June, July are fantastic times. The sea conditions are ideal, so it's really good times, and the diversity is also very good in the north east in Trincomalee. The diversity is much better when it comes to cetaceans in the northeast than the southwest.
Excellent. So the waters are not turbulent then?
No.
Okay. Excellent. And there was some more questions that people were asking, but that was during the webinar, and I didn't want to interrupt you then. Somebody was asking about, was it Manar? I think you were talking about the terns nesting there, and Mahiru wanted to know a few things. I can't pinpoint. Anyway, that's okay. So friends, if you've got any more questions to ask, just go ahead and type them in the chat box, and Lester will reply to you. If not, it's time for beer for most people. So you might want to might want to take a break. But I'll tell you, Lester, we need to plan this out more often with friends who are interested in visiting Sri Lanka, and we should be able to give a very holistic, very nurturing sort of holiday. Birds, yes, mammals, yes, but also the spirit that you put into your work. That should, and if you can be there with them, while they're touring, it'll be fantastic. I know that uh, that experience will be unmatchable. So. So I'm so happy to have you here today, my friend. I'm so happy.
Thank you, Mohit.
And yes,
Thank you
and
so much. It's been a pleasure. It's
great.
been a pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you and congratulations. Lovely presentation. So we'll call it off now, Lester, and then we will be in touch again within a week's time to figure out how to go ahead. I want to bring Sri Lankan experiences, let's say travel experiences to people as well, and what they can do, how to go about it, do's and don'ts. A lot of information that will help them plan their holidays to Sri Lanka when they're ready to travel again. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mohit.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
You're
Good night.
welcome.
Bye.
Good
Thank you, ladies
good
and
night.
gentlemen. Bye bye.
Thank you. Good night.